And welcome to Talk of the Tavern. What we had, July 25th, and it's Wednesday, most of the day. I'm your host, Travis Sivart, and my vices today, I have coffee, which is now iced, much to Andrea's chagrin. I have brandy. I'm probably going to have cigars. I thought about pipes. Oh, hold on, I forgot to mute myself here. There we go. And thanks to Skype, I didn't share the system sound, so I played the Twitch stream. The Twitch stream, yeah. And you guys didn't get to hear the theme song because Skype in all its wonder and beauty and glory has now changed it. So yeah, there's no sharing settings without sharing screen, which now almost triples the outgoing bandwidth on my already crippled internet. Bob, you're beautiful. Look at those huge bits. See a doctor. They look swollen and irritated. Let me introduce my lovely co-host. That's Andrea today, just so you know, Greg. Sorry, we'll get to you in a minute, though. It's Andrea, it's all you. What? Okay, what? What kind of coffee you got? I'm cleaning my desk. No, you're not muted. Greg's just like. Oh, hold on a second. Okay, it's. Oh, okay, there you go. You'll. Well, I don't know why are you muted? I don't know. Okay, Monster, do me a favor, please. Help me tech this out. Well, no, guys, it's not you. It's the OBS settings because my desktop audio is not coming across. So I'm guessing I need to come over here to Properties, take it off of default, and put it onto what's coming across my headsets. Give me a speaky.
Speaky. Can
Right.
you hear me now?
Give me a little something there, big guy.
I'm here. I'm over here.
Okay. Monster, you got both of them chittering on now.
Can you hear me, Bob? Cannoli.
That's right, Bob. Speak up, Bob. Okay, thank
Loud
you.
and clear now. Fantastic.
Yeah, that was just. No, I
Well,
need
I
to
have
move.
coffee. I have water. You're welcome.
There we go.
It's
Well,
not
Greg,
Starbucks.
what do you got today?
I'm over here with some honey rum from Professor T.
Really? Hold that still. Hold. Wait, don't move. Bring it a little closer. A little closer. No. Open it and pour me a goddamn drink. It's
to drink it for
how
me,
is
too.
it? Honey rum? Because I'm not a fan of honey stuff except honey.
Honey rum. Well, I find honey stuff is brilliant because it's great for vocal cords.
That's
Obviously,
true.
doing all the shows that I do. I find the honey rum fantastic. I've actually got, I think, some maple and some ginger and some other in the cabinet behind me here. I've stacked out the van properly when I set up for a show.
Nice. I like that idea. Now, I'm putting an ad slightly over your head because Skype. It's what it boils down to.
Thank you, Skype.
So I've got to rearrange things here because Skype is a douchebag.
Oh, I see it. Oh, there it
But
goes.
yeah, like one up here and one up here now.
There is, and I'm going to move mine and that tip jar. I just got to... there you go. Bought another 100 for your cannoli there, Andrea.
Of course he did.
He has us trained like little puppies, doesn't he? Tip jar, that's what I want. I want to move my tip jar, if you know what I mean. Let's put that over there. Oh, now I got to move my explosions. Damn it. Not recent events, not logos. Cog Whistle is now following me. I thought Cog Whistle was a bot. Well, Cog Whistle, whether you're a bot or a person, happy to have you along. Thanks for joining us.
Bots can follow too.
Yeah, I think maybe they're having to do that now because I'm seeing this happen more frequently. Where there's been a couple people who I thought were bots and now they're actually following. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You do you, man. That's what I was like.
They're bots, but they're run by people, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta make me smaller now so I don't block half your damn face. Oh, that's Cog Whistle falling. Okay, let's lock that back down. Goodness. See, I was going to do this all before, but then I had the thing with the pre-show and Greg, once I'm done here, basically messing things up, I would love to have a little bit of a tour of your home away from home there.
I'll be honest with you, it's not going to be a very, very long tour.
Yeah, you probably don't even have to move, but I love the travel vans or caravans or whatever they're called, depending what country you're in. And I think that'll do. I'm kind of covering Andrea's face. Maybe I should make myself even smaller.
What?
I have a great idea.
Raised.
I know how to do this. Hold on.
Why don't you go to the top?
That's what I'm about to do. Don't tell me what to do.
I'm hiding like a ninja. I see.
You are. You're like ducking behind Travis. You're like, whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, hold on. I got to move my TOTT logos.
See, thanks, Skype. And I'm going to pay attention for the most part, but I'm talking to my sister.
Okay,
so,
that's good. You should tell her to tune in.
Maybe. She's busy trying to live.
Whatever. That sounds lazy to me. That's all I'm saying. Greg, just so you know, her sister recently went through some.
I will do it.
Okay.
All right.
You do it.
Well,
fine.
you do your stuff. Okay. Last Tuesday, my sister gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, Vincent, my nephew. And then there was complications, and she was put on life support. Her chances were not very good. They said 50-50. Okay, this is my baby sister, so we rushed to the hospital. It was really bad and really bleak. But then she showed everybody. A few days later, she was well enough to be taken off of life support. And then Saturday, the ventilator came out, and we went to visit her Saturday night. She could speak a little bit. And now we're messaging. So there
brilliant.
you go. Short version.
On the way back. Yeah. Good.
Yes.
And in the meantime, Travis has very nearly decided where we're going to be tonight.
Almost. There we go. I think I've got it. Okay.
Are you done?
No, turkeys are done. Travis is finished.
What?
That was something my grandmother used to say. And I'm like, get me out of the oven. I'm done.
No oven.
No oven? Okay.
Better start talking before everybody runs away.
Okay, I think we got this. What do you think, guys? How's it look?
Yeah, it's all right.
That looks good to me.
Oh, you know what? I got one more thing to fix.
What?
What? I should take this, and I should move this up here, and I should take this down here, because this is how it's going to have to be until we're no longer on Skype. There you go. There we go. That's better.
Okay, now
it's more even, more balanced, right? Who am I talking? I'm going to talk to the hand. What?
I can't.
Can't what?
I just can't.
I forgot to turn off my phone.
I see that.
Did you see the picture? Okay, Greg, we tried to get Richard on with us because we wanted to get, that's cute there, sweetie. We wanted to get a few of our British friends on, like you, Kevin, and Richard all at the same time, and Richard's busy.
The three we know.
But no, last night on Andrea's channel, we're playing Crypto Mysteries. It's a steampunk monster hunting scenario. And he has a character that, by the way, he said, if you want a great steampunk name, all you have to do is get a list of all the train stations in London and pick 2 of them to create a name. And if you want, I have this list right here. We could pull it up, and it's great fun putting some of these things together. But his name is Paddington Aldwych. So
yeah, that one works.
He sent a picture to the group today, and it's got Ted. If you remember the movie about the teddy bear with Mark Wahlberg.
Yep.
Ted's in a tub, and he's on the phone, and Ted is like, so, bud, where the hell are you? Somebody else says, I'm just pulling out of Paddington. He says, but that made him drop his marmalade sandwich. And I'm like, yes, that's the kind of stuff. That's the quality bonding material we need on the in the game. Okay. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. Nothing to do with the overlay though. I've got to go. Are we doing the haunting thing? Is that what we're doing?
Let's do a haunting thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
So
let's
you're
do a
gonna
whole
change
episode
the-
just setting up Twitch. I mean, it's
We did one of those last week, and then Skype came along and changed it, and yeah, we had just literally spent like 3 hours on one episode doing it, and then they, like the next Monday, they switched it, so everything was kind of crap. So, so screw it all. We're gonna go with that haunting thing. Let's capitalize all three words like a title. There we go. We're gonna call it that haunting thing. Which that, could be musical performers with it. Haunting tunes. Greg looks terrified, doesn't he? Just the whole time he's staring at the cameras, his eyes are wide like something is just off to the side.
Have you seen this show before?
It's probably because I've split the screen, so I've got Twitch on one side and you on the other side. So the whole time I'm just looking off to where you are, right on the far side of the screen.
I try to stare at the camera when I'm talking to my audience, which is really awkward. Now we know what the haunting thing is. It's us. Let's do an opening toast here. Man, here's to hanging out in strange men's vans. Thanks for having us, Greg.
Yeah, welcome to the van, yeah.
So you're just drinking straight from that. So, I mean, how sweet is the honey rum?
It's pretty sweet, actually. You can really taste the honey. It is a nice drink.
Then again, you know what? UK sweet is different from US sweet. US sweet gets sickly. And ugh.
Yeah.
So maybe...
Oh, no,
Like
it certainly doesn't get
diabetes.
to that point, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of times when we're getting the flavored vodkas or the flavored rums, if you spill some, it will leave a sticky spot, like a thick sticky spot, like you spilled syrup. And I'm like
a bad date.
they're supposed to be flavoring this stuff, not adding rum to your honey or whatever. They're supposed to be adding honey to your rum.
The mix is actually, Professor T does some really fantastic mixes. He has a huge range of rums and meads. I don't know if you ever drink mead over there.
I don't like it because it's too sweet.
He has a fantastic range of both, including, I believe you've had Victor and the Bully on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
He produces their range of drinks, their drink, the sinfully spicy variety from Victor and the Bully. All comes through the same Professor T.
Why do I not know this man and have a drink of my own?
I do not know why you don't. You ought to get on this, Travis. Probably because he's British.
No,
and he makes.
I have found I prefer, and sorry to all Americans listening, I prefer my British guests. They're more relaxed and free-flowing and just friendly. They don't seem to... They seem to know how to hang out. And
we try, yeah.
Yeah, well, they're relaxed. And also, if you ever watch like the Graham Norton show, to me, that's like the perfect talk show because he has multiple guests at once. They interact with each other. They banter instead of just, let me tell you about my movie. They'll talk about their movie for 2 minutes. Then they hang out and have a good time. And I'm like, that's how it should be done.
There's a difference between a chat and an interview, isn't it?
There is. And there are some people I interview, and that's fine. But the vast majority of people I have on, I want to chat. And matter of fact, interview is the fallback plan with my guests. If I get them on and they're just not a chatter, I just fall into interview mode and roll forward. So, tour us through your little home away from home. Your haunted
let me give you the grand tour. I have a stack of shelves right here behind me. That gives me all of my DIY kit, my tools, and a drawer full of booze, which is quite good. That's where I keep all my spare mead bottles.
I like you
some
more.
Which may make let me see if I can see what you can actually see.
Naked woman on your shoulder.
This is Moana. Let's see if I can bring her.
So it is.
Face. Yeah, it's Disney's Moana. For some reason, people think that she's like Flick and I'm like the incredibly full of himself, over the top Maui in the film Moana. I don't know why people have that impression.
I feel like that must be something you do on stage. Since I haven't actually seen your live stage show, In no way do I feel you're arrogant or full of yourself at all.
Arrogant is probably the wrong word. I was going to say there's an egotistical that isn't arrogant. I think that's the point.
That must be what I have.
That's it.
Well, at least you didn't say you were like, hey,
That's right.
Carrying on around, then right next to me, I sleep right behind my stage tricycle.
Nice.
So that is the infamous old ice cream bike that I converted into a mobile stage.
Do you have
Then-
a Talk of the Tavern sticker on that somewhere?
I don't think I do at the moment, actually.
Do I
No,
need
we
to
need to get that
send
one
you-
sorted.
Okay, I'm going to drop a quick message for your address, and you
Yeah. Because you can see we have all the, I have it covered. I have mainly my posters, but I got posters for everything else. Last Airship, Curious Aquatic, but then I think I've got steampunk festivals and all sorts of bands and things all get their stickers over there. And then carrying on around, we've got a couple of unicycles, because why wouldn't you?
Of course.
My iPad set up, my precarious electricity setup, which is just a car battery hooked up to an inverter, and then I've got the garden out the back.
And you have a bit of a little old lady or something there that you're keeping, I see.
Yeah, that's it. I try and keep a few of them around.
So, I mean, it's...
And then
Yeah, go ahead.
up behind me, then we've got the cab area in the front, but you can't see that because I've got the curtains up.
So what's to the other side there? To your right. Yeah, what's that? Oh.
That's just the window.
Oh, it's all bright. Put it
Yeah.
down. Oh, my God. So, it's something a lot of people in the States wouldn't realize is you're probably very comfortable temperature-wise right now.
I am just about okay now. I'll be happier in half an hour or so.
When the sun dips, yeah.
It has got a little bit hot just this last week. It's got sweltering. So yeah, it has got a little bit hot. I haven't been actually going into the van to settle down until quite late in the evening yesterday's.
Well, you're portable. If you need to go sit in a chair outside the van, do it. I get it. It's but my point is the UK is not nearly as tropical and humid as a lot of the United States, but you guys have been getting a few kicks in the ass from the weather, haven't you?
Well, we've been getting a heat wave, and I think we talked about this when I was on before a few weeks ago with
Yeah.
Flick, that we're just not prepared for it.
Right. Yeah,
And it's
we
a
did.
strange thing. We are
Mhm.
prepared for rain. I'm in my big summer show thing now. I'm doing a lot of outdoor shows. And if it's chucking it down with rain, people still come out. You can put up an umbrella. You can move indoors. You can find... Yesterday, the place I was performing at yesterday, there was no option for shade. And so there just wasn't really anyone there. It was so hot. People were coming out. They'd stay for half an hour. They'd watch a show, but then they wouldn't stick around. They were just too hot. And so that's what's kind of giving us a bit of hassle at the moment. Seems incredible to me that we all say, oh, we want the sun. Where's the sun when it's raining? But we'll put up with the rain. The sun seems to just throw us completely.
And it's opposite over here. Rain will just clear a place out. You know, even a light sprinkle, and people are like, "Oh, we can't go anywhere." But sun, they're like, "Oh, it's 95. We're gonna go somewhere." And by the way,
Yeah.
let's see, what is 95 Fahrenheit in your world? Which we hit this temperature probably a dozen times during the summer. Let me see here, 95 Fahrenheit to Celsius. So that would be 35 Celsius.
35. So that's maximum we've been reaching the last week or so.
See,
That
that's
is
really hot
Very
for there.
good for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, that's... I mean, I spent a lot of time working out in Italy, so I'm used to being in 35-degree heat over there.
Oh.
By the time we got to May, when I used to be over there, May, June, July time, it was 35 going up to 40. So that'd be that sort of temperature. But it also makes a difference. That humidity as well makes a huge difference.
Wow,
And
even up to 40 in Italy, huh?
Yeah, it was pushing up that way. Yeah.
That's 104 in Fahrenheit, Andrea. So yeah, and we get those kind of temperatures here, but over 100, so I guess over 37 or so in Celsius, we say that maybe 3 to 4 times a year, you know, for a day or two.
Yeah, so
That's
that
it. So,
And then while we're talking about the weather, on the other end of the spectrum, I've been right down to minus 15, minus 20 when I was staying up in the Arctic Circle for a while.
yeah,
Which is,
it's I don't know which. See, I love weather, and I'm sure we discussed this last time. As you come on the show more and more, sometimes I'll repeat stories that I know you've heard because not all the viewers have. On the other hand, there's some stories you could be like, I've heard it, stop talking. Um, use your judgment. Um, but it's been rainy for 3 or 4 days here. I mean, just a nice even mist to a little bit of a downpour, but nothing rough, nothing booming, nothing rolling, not tremendous winds, just nice, steady rain. And in the afternoon, you get a bit of a break, and then by midnight, it's raining again. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it. But I enjoy, oh, here's a nice rainstorm. Here's a beautiful sunny day. Here's a wonderful snow, and your breath crystallizes in front of you. Which, by the way, when I was in Russia in February, in southern Siberia, I looked out across the field and it looked like pixies, like little magical sparkles all above this field. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And what I realized, it was the air freezing into ice in front of my eyes and the sun hitting it. Because we were at negative 40 degrees, which is where Celsius and Fahrenheit mix. That's where they meet. Negative 40. And it was beautiful. I mean, and I remember showing up in Russia to my friend's house, and I went, oh, I've got all my winter stuff. And their father looked at me and went, I'll get you a coat. Hold on. They went, you're not going to wear that. Do you know where you are? Fallout from Chernobyl, says Bob. Could be. It's we were in Omsk, which was
Well, the worst one I did with the snow up in the Arctic Circle, because I was up there working as an elf. It's a long story that we don't need to go into today. But I mean, I had a day I got stranded out there. But I think the silliest thing I did was basically there were only 4 hours of grey light when I was up there, which is about what it's like just before dawn. The rest of it was nighttime.
right.
So you only had these 4 hours when you could actually work. Well, you get a group of actors, you stick them in a little log cabin, and you say you've got nothing to do for 20 hours a day. Of course, the alcohol started coming out and started to flow. So
I'll
you'd
drink
be
to that.
drinking quite late. And we would carry on. And the trouble is, you get up the next morning, you'd have an early start, you kind of get ready, you'd go out and do the day, and it got a bit tiring. And I had to basically wait in one place until a bus of people turned up, then entertain them, and then wait for the next bus. And there was a lovely fire, an open fire in the middle of the ground. I thought, well, I'll just have a sit by this for 5 minutes. You know, I've got half an hour till the next bus comes. So I sat down, and then I lay down, and I fell asleep. And I'm woken up by this Canadian guy rushing past me. Bus is coming, bus is coming. So I hop up, jump up, rush over to the bus. What I've missed is that in the middle of sleeping, I've rolled over, and my side of my face has been laying in the snow. So at this point in time, half of my face has lost all feeling. And I rush onto this bus as an elf, and half of my face is just drooping down. Must have terrified the children.
Quick to the cave. No, that sounds like
Feeling good this year.
That's right. I'm the elf that comes over if you've been bad. My cat looks terrified right now when I do that voice. My cats have been so affectionate the past 2 days, especially 2 of them that are rarely overly affectionate. You know, they accept some petting, they like you well enough, but now they're like up in my face and taking my pen while I'm writing and going through my wallet. They've been really, really sweet.
Mm.
So where are you? Are you on the Isle of Wight right now?
Oh, no. If I was at the Isle of Wight, I'd still be at home. I've been
Okay.
married less than a month. If I was on the Isle of Wight and I was living in a van, the marriage would be going pretty badly at this point.
It's
No, I'm up in Gloucestershire.
yeah. By the way, about your marriage, I know people always wish marriages, oh, eternal happiness. I'm a horrible person. I understand the necessity of babies, but I'm not necessarily a baby guy. I don't hate them, but I'm like, hey, it's another kid. Okay, good for you. Have fun with that, because you got 20 years where you're just fucked. Have a good time. I mean, that's a beautiful child. You're going to be so happy. Autocorrect. Sorry. But
They got married. They're not having a baby.
well, with marriages, it's, you get the realistic thing. And Some people you're just like, oh, well, I give them 3 years. But nobody says it out loud, except maybe Travis sometimes. But with you and Flick, I think you guys get it in that whether you before you met or once you met, you guys were looking to have fun and have a good time and laugh and enjoy things. And after talking to people who have been married for 50 to 70 years, because every time when I worked at the Department of Motor Vehicles, somebody come in and they're like, oh, it's our whatever anniversary. I'm like, so what's your secret? What do you think got you this far? And the answer was either we're
No
apart
kids.
a lot or we just learn to laugh. Now, apart means they don't actually do anything together. They stay away from each other, thus the marriage survives. Yeah, which that's
I
really,
never did understand that. Why would you marry someone if you don't want to be around them? Anyway.
whereas,
But yeah, no.
yeah, I think you have like, you
I think
got it. Go on.
one of our keys to success was, I think, the fact that we developed a friendship for 3 years. We met and we developed a friendship for 3 years, and then we got romantically involved. We were together for a couple of years before the marriage, but that first period where we were friends, and as you say, it's the things. I mean, I don't know if she's going to listen to this or not, so I'll just talk candidly for a minute. The moment way back when I realised that I liked Flick was in sort of that way. Was we went to this. It was a safari park,
Mm-hmm.
and there was like this adventure zone thing, and it was made for, like, I don't know, 10-year-old children. And I was there with Flick and her sister. We'd gone away on a work trip to see these model dinosaurs. And so, of course, I wanted to run around and play on this adventure park thing that had been built. And one of the things you had to do was they had like this low climbing wall. And the idea was you start at one end, you have to climb right across the wall, and you get to the far end and you hit a button, and you've won the game. And so I hopped up on this climbing wall and I'm making my way across, trying to do it properly, trying not to touch the floor. And of course, as I get to the far end, I'm about to reach out, and she just walks over to the wall and slaps the button. And that's the moment when I was like, yep, no.
That's comedic timing.
Yeah, that's spot on.
It's and hi John, good to see you. How are you? Max RPG is our local comic store. Yeah.
Oh,
And he popped in if you're watching the chat. But usually he puts
I
it
am
on and then
now.
he wanders off and he leaves it playing for his shop. And when we know he's here, we attempt to not let Travis swear as much as he might some days. But yeah, as long as we don't get too horrible about it, it's most things slip by without upsetting.
Is it still the case you were saying before? Is it still the case that you get less bad language and things on? What have we got here?
John says, "Fuck that." That's from Jersey. That's from the card shop. So, are you talking about?
It is not New Jersey. It is not in Jersey. It is in Gloucester, Virginia, Hayes, Virginia, not in Jersey.
I have cat fur
Okay.
stuck on my mustache and it's tickling my nose. So I'm not picking my nose, everyone. I am totally, totally not picking my nose. Yes, I still swear less on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday than I do Monday nights. And it all depends on the topic and the guest and, where it's appropriate. And that's that. And for all you guys hanging out or about to bail, we will be talking about hauntings and things like that shortly. We have to, warm up, hang out a little bit. We'll get to it. So if you want to talk about hauntings, you just type it out and we'll read it out loud when we figure out that we like you well enough.
Oh, yeah, definitely type some stuff in. I like reading haunting stories. And I will dramatize any haunting story anyone writes down as well. I'll do the full things.
I've never actually even thought about writing a book about my experiences with UFOs. UFOs.
That's a different kind of story.
UFOs or hauntings. And I have stories about ghosts, about aliens, about possession, about things in the woods hunting people, and they're all real, true, they happened stories. But as we discussed before we went on air, I can debunk most of them pretty easily, and the ones that I can't do easily, I can still debunk them. It just takes a little more, well, this could have been what happened.
Well, you've got debunking, and then my big argument with this, because I tend to get into this with people a lot, because I do a show which I don't know if you know about, is the non-psychic psychic show. I actually pull apart some of the fraudulent means that fraudulent mediums and psychics use. And it's a whole show about mainly about the Victorian end of things, touching on a little bit of stuff people do today, and I touch on that about hauntings and things like that. And my biggest problem with a lot of the stories you hear about hauntings is, well, one, let's assume that for just for a minute there, let's assume that someone's got a particular story of a haunting and they saw an actual ghost.
Right.
Okay, that it is a ghost. Let's just assume that that is 100% what happened. That doesn't answer in any way, shape, or form a question. To me, that is asking a question.
Yeah.
When they say, I saw a ghost, okay, well, what was that ghost? And then what people have a habit of doing is going, oh, well, it's the disembodied spirit of dead, or it's a hole in time. And people have their theories that they've got no evidence to back up. But as soon as you just put a label on it and say, that's a ghost, you're straight away you're putting a label on something that doesn't mean anything. We don't know what a ghost is.
Right.
So even if you're not debunking it and saying it's, it's just a man in a dress that's happened to be walking across the road and someone thought it was a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I got man in a dress there. I could have gone for absolutely anything, but that's the ghost that's just suddenly occurred to me right now. Don't know what's going on.
They were scared of something. They need to quit judging other people's lifestyles.
But yeah, the whole thing is that just because you've seen a ghost and you've called it a ghost, that still doesn't explain what you've seen. Like I say, I'm fascinated by the idea of, could it be a time loop and these echoes from the past? Is it really the spirit of dead person? Even if you can actually 100% prove it's true, you still need to tell me what it is.
I love where you went with that, and I do have some theories, which I immediately go, I have not backed this with science, but they are more scientifically based than what most people have. Let me read a comment here. Kennedy pointing out that Jersey is originally from your side of the pond, and he also went to a Horror Writers Association reading, and there's a cast called What Are You Afraid Of podcast. Nice. See, since we're on the ghost thing, I'm a firm believer in science. And if you can't reproduce an effect, you can't qualify that effect. In other words, define it. Like you said, if there's a ghost and somebody says, I saw a ghost, well, what was it you saw? Now, my theory of ghosts fall predominantly into three categories. One is a psychic impression, because humans are bioelectrical magnetic generators. We have an electrical field around us that is magnetically based. Okay. We know this. So if somebody has a special emotional response, they essentially take a psychic shit right there, and other people who are on that wavelength can pick up on the residue energy. Thus, this is why you would see somebody who sees that old lady with the candle or a little girl at the end of the hall. Somebody else saw this experience, left essentially an energy residue from their emotional response of seeing this, and other people who are similar wavelength pick it up. Part two would be a poltergeist. So this is a burst of excess energy. It's not a spiritual thing. It's actually our electrical field causing things, noises, blah, blah, blah. And the third one would be, Bob is saying, I'm scared of ghosts who are eating fried chicken. Bob, we're not going there today. We can't do that without Ed on the show. And then we have the third type, the ghosts you actually interact with, whether it's EVPs or actually hear them, see them. I think this is the possibility, as science is just starting to explore, of the multiverse, when you have two universes that are overlapping and the energy signature lines up well enough, we can actually, for a few seconds, communicate from one reality to the other. And on the other side, they're like, fuck, it's a ghost. And it's yelling something at me. Now, my real problem with people seeing anything supernatural or cryptozoology or any of that is, for years they've been saying, but now we're finally realizing how unreliable human sight/memory is, and how easy it is to make somebody believe shit that never happened. Like in a matter of 10 minutes, you can convince somebody they had a childhood experience they didn't. So when it
Well,
comes to, go ahead.
well, at its base level, that whole memory thing, that is what a lot of magic is about.
Yeah.
If I do a magic trick, there's a point in a magic trick which is called the recap, and it's the bit that people usually miss. And it's a clever technique. Partway through a magic trick, you'll be doing a magic trick, and suddenly the magician will remind you what happened. And they will deliberately miss out certain steps that you would need in order to actually.
Have
But
all the
your
pieces.
memory then is
Mhm.
being corrected, and you will go away remembering without those missing pieces. And so, yet we know we can manipulate memory quite easily, just like that. And how often are you doing that to yourself as well?
Right.
There's a story I tell. I don't know if I've ever spoken to you about the time I got mugged in Italy. It's a funny story, even though it doesn't sound like it at that point in time. I got mugged in Italy. It was I must have been about 22 at the time, and I was coming out of a nightclub at about 2 a.m. And I am not a man that likes nightclubs. It was horrible. It was loud. It was someone's birthday. I'd been there. I had maybe had a beer, if that. I was completely sober, and I came out. And this was a point in time where I was doing 5 shows a day. I was loading set in and out of shows. I was fairly muscly then. I've always had a little bit of muscle, and the other thing that's important to this story is I'm 5'6", okay, 5'6". I'm not a tall guy, and this guy comes over, and he's shorter than me, and he decides to try and mug me. And so he comes over, and he's trying to mug me, and I'm looking around thinking, look, there's a whole load of drunk people here. If you're shorter than me and quite a skinny guy, mugging's probably not your line of work, and you don't go for someone who's looking fairly sober. Anyway, he starts to grab at me, and I just push him away, and he grabs at me again, and I push him to the floor. And long story short, he stole a comb that I had in my pocket, which annoyed me because it's not easy to find a comb on a Sunday in Italy. But I went away and I started to tell that story, and in my time, I've told that story 2 ways. Sometimes I've told it for dramatic effect, where the guy had a knife. Other times, I've told it for comedic effect, and I've made the whole thing quite funny, and that doesn't work if the guy has a knife.
Right.
Trouble is, at this point in time with that particular story, I genuinely don't know whether I put the knife in when I was telling the story at some point for dramatic effect, or whether I took the knife out of the story when I was telling it for comedic effect on stage. So it's a story that I've told on stage. Obviously, to people I know, I try to keep a story fairly straight. But we're all storytellers. When I'm on stage, I will elaborate a story slightly. And I don't know, to be completely honest, whether that guy had a knife in his hand or not. And when I picture that moment, I can picture it perfectly clearly both ways. And I genuinely don't know.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is something else when people are like, and I've been doing this here, I've always been that guy where somebody's like, are you sure about that? And I always leave room for error because I know how perception is, and I know how also, even if you're like, well, this was in a book, I learned it in school, if somebody says, are you sure? I have seen things, math, science, literature, change from the time I was a kid to now. It's different now, so I leave room for that to happen. And I have found, by the way, when you're in a position of authority, don't do that. Just tell them, yes, you're absolutely sure. Now shut up and sit down. Because, yeah, they don't want room for mistakes. They want you to just beat them down with, what you're doing. A few comments. Is a ghost from another dimension called a bi ghost? No. That's what you call them when they leave for another dimension. Bi ghost. Kennedy asks, even though eyewitness testimony is one of the least reliable, it's given heavy weight by jurors. That's because people are stupid and they want to believe other people who come across as charismatic. That's part of the stupidity. They would be better off believing somebody who's not charismatic. It's more likely to be true.
It makes a good point because we don't allow, I don't know about over there, we don't allow lie detectors in any way, shape or form to be used in a courtroom over in England at this time. And they have a limited range of accuracy. Some people say it's 75%, some say 95%, but they aren't 100% accurate. But at the same time, neither is eyewitness testimony, and neither are photographs that everybody and videos that everyone always holds up as these things of accuracy.
Well, video
It's a
is
good
more
point.
reliable than memory.
Yeah.
But the angle the video is can tell a different story.
Right. And also where they trim it out, when they start it and where they end it. You're like, well, let me show you a video that starts before the event and ends after the event. Then you have a more accurate. But yeah.
And we just had a comment in the chat saying, just this week, CERN thinks they've confirmed faster than light particles.
Yeah, I have a hard on right now about that. They also have discovered actual water on Mars, not just a
I did
trickle.
see that today.
Yeah, so yeah, and as we go on, once we're done with the haunting thing, yeah, let's talk about that stuff, because CERN, since it was first being built, I have been following it like a hawk. I love what they're doing there. I love the concept. If not for reality and what we'll actually learn in science, just to branch it out into science fiction of what I write. But it works well for both. Matter of fact, the CERN Large Hadron Collider extends throughout many of my books well into the future and actually influences stuff very far down the road. So, Kennedy, we will come back to that, but right now I want to stick with what we're talking about. But I want an article. I bet you I can find that real quick. Let's just hit CERN and see what's in the news, and I bet you I'll find something real quick. Okay, so we were talking about the unreliability of what we see with our own eyes.
The other thing with that, which it was only a scientific thing, because we talked about memory and things, but actually seeing things is, from what I gather, we all have a skewed view of how we see things.
Mm-hmm.
What we kind of think happens is there's the world, and that world goes into our eyes and gets interpreted by our brain.
Correct.
Whereas what they think happens now, as far as I gather, is we are forming constantly a mental image of the world. You form that mental image of the world, and then all your eyes are doing is checking it and adjusting it. That is why things can so easily fool you. It's why you get stories of the Aboriginal people seeing this massive ship arrive, or not seeing when a massive ship arrived and just ignoring it, pretending it's not there, because their eyes couldn't fit something like that into the world. And I find that fascinating, the fact that we're not even taking the world in and processing it. We are already forming our opinions in our minds of what the world should look like, and then we're just checking it with our eyes as we go along.
In this book right here, Journal of a Stranger. Now, this is the diary of a time traveler across 70,000 years, past, present, future. But I took a lot of my personal stuff, like what we're discussing right now, about, does perception form reality, or does reality form your perception? And by the way, the answer to that is both. They influence each other. Your perception can influence your reality to a point. And so, yeah, I included CERN just because we know to be an absolute may not be true. Well, it's you wait till they figure out time is not what they think it is. It's not a measurable, universal constant. It's okay. I'm branching off into that because I'm passionate about that stuff. But yeah, I think it's important to remember that your reality is based on your perception, and if you have a skewed perception, or perhaps if the rest of the world has a skewed and you're the only one on mark, yours will appear skewed because of perception. But so when we get down to hauntings and whatnot, how do we ever prove what we actually see, Greg?
Well, that's the trouble, isn't it? How do you prove it? It's one of my rules when I have, I'm doing these non-psychic shows, and everybody has their stories, or a lot of people come to me their story of, but this psychic did this, and this psychic, when I was a child, this person predicted this, and this person predicted that, and you come down to this, well, I'm never going to take that anecdote as fact. It offends some people when I say, well, that's great, it's a fantastic story, but I'm not going to trust your story. And they say, oh, but what if it happened to you? And I said, well, then I wouldn't trust my story either. It's kind of, I just don't know. You can't trust your perception, but there's a certain extent to which you have to trust your perception. And then there's an extent to which you have to go, now I've got to be a bit careful.
Right.
So you were saying earlier on that you've got some haunting stories. So when you look back at those, what have you got one you'd like to share, and then we can try and pick it apart and have some fun with it?
Oh, and absolutely with the picking apart, I'll share it in just a second, and I'll start with the simple stuff and work to the more complex stuff. But every single one of these I have picked apart. There are one or two where I'm like, not really. You know what? We'll start with that one. We'll start with the one where I really can't tell you what happened. Besides the possible, it was my perception, and I have misremembered by replaying the story in my head. Because we don't actually, when you have a memory, you're actually replaying the events in your head as opposed to viewing a memory. You're resending current through your brain to recreate that moment, so you're experiencing it again. This is why your dopamine levels or whatever can kick up as you're remembering something, because you're reliving it, through 20% of your being or whatever. Okay, so there's one time and 3 different events happened in this house. I'm laying in bed. It was a waterbed. I guess I was 13, possibly 14. But I think
Whoa. If this story has ectoplasm in it, I don't want to hear this one.
Go watch the trailer for Melissa McCarthy's new movie. It's you ever watch Greg the Bunny?
No.
Okay, you know who Seth Green is?
Yes, yeah.
He did a television show with Eugene Levy called Greg the Bunny, and it was basically like, what if puppets were real creatures and they were sharing the world with us? And it was basically went forward like that, with puppet rights, puppet dating, and the show revolved around a kid's show, but then what the puppets were like after the cameras were off. Well, Melissa McCarthy now has a movie coming out. Andrea, what's the name of it? Do you remember?
No.
Happy Madness or something? I don't know.
I'll let you know in a second. It's probably a video that'll come up on Twitch.
She'll Google it, but the bottom line is she's a cop and she has a puppet partner, and somebody is hunting down and killing the puppets. So they're investigating it, but it's Melissa McCarthy, which means dick and fart jokes and inappropriate sex with puppets, and I can't wait. I want to see this horrible movie and laugh all the way through the damn thing. So anyhow, okay, so I'm laying in bed. It's a water bed. As I'm laying there, my closet's to my left. My door is on that same wall in the corner. And the rest of the room, really, it doesn't matter what it looked like. I always left my door this open so a cat could pass through. Because I had a cat, and she would come in and sleep with me. One day, afternoon, not night, I'm laying in bed. Bob says, were you touched inappropriately? It goes, while in the waterbed? No, dude, then it would be a totally different story. That'd be
a different show. The Happy Time Murders.
Happy Time Murders.
Happy Time Murders.
You're
welcome.
But I'm laying there, and the door slowly swings all the way open and gently touches the wall, and then swings all the way closed till it touches the door frame. Not slams, not violent. My cat is on me, so it wasn't the cat. Now, Florida, we had the AC, but it wasn't blowing at the moment. No windows were open. Nobody came in the front door to create a breeze, and even if they did, the breeze wouldn't pull the door all the way back. We weren't on a main highway or just under a airplane route where vibrations from some big machine going by would cause this. So, I know all the reasons it should be able to happen, the logical ones. I don't know why it actually happened. Pick away.
I always have my first problem with any story like this is when it starts with the words, I was in bed. Was this daytime? Was this nighttime?
Daytime, after school. Basically, I'd come home and sit in my room and watch cartoons on my little black and white TV.
So less likely that you drifted off then. But
it's unlikely, but I can't say, considering it was 30 plus years ago, that it couldn't happen.
And that's the thing is, you've got this story, and I mean, because there's so many ghost stories, same as with alien encounter stories. I don't know what the percentages are, but so many of them take place in bed, and there's a lot of them, um, both alien and ghost stories, where it's people being trapped and held down, and this relates to sleep
It
paralysis and all sorts of things
does.
like. I mean, I
Which
don't know if you suffered from sleep paralysis, where
I
you wake up and you
do.
just come. I do too, and so you can very quickly see how that can go to your mind's putting stuff in there.
Well, my UFO encounter, I very much attribute to sleep paralysis. I am just very confident my encounter with an alien being was, yeah, basically my brain was awake and my body wasn't, and it was imposing what was left of dream time on top of actual reality. Um,
It, it's
mhm.
so easy to, and also you then take stuff from your culture, from the ideas. I mean, I went to give blood the other week. I gave blood, just sort of going along doing a blood donation, and it was a hot day. I probably hadn't eaten enough, and I managed to pass out. And so I, sitting there, giving the blood, sitting there. They've taken it out. They've taken the cannula out the arm and everything, and I'm sitting there. Next thing I know, vague, fuzzy, nightmarish feeling, and suddenly bright lights above me and a group of medical-looking people standing over me.
Mhm.
And that first thought, that image in my brain now is that of sort of some sort of alien autopsy room with all the people crowded around. And I did actually say to one of the nurses there, I said, how often do people, if they've passed out, wake up and just start lashing out straight away because they think they've been caught? Because that's the moment that went through my mind. It was all those films. It was
Mhm.
all that idea of, oh, I've been captured by someone. Luckily, my body was not responding to commands. It wasn't lashing out at people. But she said it is a very common response, and it's so easy just to trick your mind in that moment. And I'm sure, as I remember that back now, I mean, even as I remember that back now, I'm sticking a great big light right in front of my face with these people's shadows leaning over. Now, I know in the room I was in that's not possible. I've straight away started to mix it up with sort of some of the films I've seen and other stuff like that. So it's easy to see how quickly a story can adapt. And as you say, taking a story from your 13-year-old self,
Mhm.
you're not a reliable narrator in that story.
No. Now, you want a couple more stories from that house?
Yes, let's have a couple more stories from that
Okay.
house.
The next one starts with me in bed. Same bedroom. By the way, in Florida, we had those huge cockroaches. Okay, the water bugs, palmetto bugs, they're like 2 to 3 inches long. I remember one night I had a plastic beer mug next to my bed, not no beer in it, it was water, but it was empty, and I heard them scurrying inside of it. And I knew what happened is one is trapped in because the sides are too smooth to them to climb in and out of. And I went to look at it, and yeah, there was like three of them in there. I was horrified. I have an issue with these things. I can deal with most things. These things bug the fuck out of me. No pun intended. Uh, so I slowly reached for the mug, and I don't think my hand was shaking, but I knocked that fucking mug over, and they went everywhere, and I would not go back in that room for like 8 hours. But anyhow, that's not the story. That was to build up to this next story. Okay, you've seen the plastic tubular hangers, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what we had growing up. It's what I still use nowadays. I'm sitting in bed watching cartoons, Thundercats, or possibly Sesame Street, because I like the Muppet parts. Even in my teens, they were quite clever and fun. And I hear in my closed closet, and maybe my closet was open this much, maybe it wasn't, I don't recall, probably closed. I heard like clickety click, 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 click of all the hangers just like moving, like maybe a lizard ran across them, or maybe generally these bugs are not heavy enough to do that. But we did get lizards. And are they heavy enough to do that? But I stood up, went to the closet, opened it up, and the hangers are still slightly swaying, but there's no lizard, there's no bug. But this is where I've already kind of debunked that, where it probably was a lizard. Now, third story for that house. And I got this story from my buddy who was 16 or 17 at the time. He had come over to hang out. He knocked on the front door. He thought he heard somebody, like, say, come in. So he came in. Front door was unlocked. My front door is never unlocked. Even here in the middle of the country, I always lock my front door. I was raised that way. So he comes in, and he doesn't see me because he thought it was me that said come in, and he hears giggling from like my mother's room, and he goes, figuring I'm playing hide and seek or some crap, and he goes to look for me, and I'm not in there, and he hears giggling from another room, and he goes into the other room, and he can't find me, and he figures, okay, Travis will come out in a minute. When Travis comes out, and he goes and sits on the couch. 5 minutes later, I come home. Now, of course, the debunking explanation of this is we were in a neighborhood full of kids. It could have been a kid in the backyard right next door giggling, and because of the way sound bounces, and as for the door being unlocked, that's just somebody forgot to fucking lock the door. But there's those 3 individual experiences in that house.
And again, as you say, it's that thing of picking it apart. It's actually quite easy to find another explanation. I won't say a rational explanation, because that feels slightly condescending, but yeah, there's always another possibility. I mean, one of my favourite stories, well, a couple of my favourite ghost stories, that nothing that I've experienced myself. One of them was my older brother, and we went to this historic house on the Isle of Wight, and it was an open day, and you had a tour guide showing you round. And we went into one of those rooms, and the tour guide said, well, actually, we're supposed to have a ghost dog in this room. Occasionally people see a dog running out of the room. Well, there is no dog in this house. And my brother kind of went white as a sheet. And he said to us afterwards, was the woman stopped talking, we moved out of the room. He said, I saw it. I saw a dog run out the room as we came in. And I said to him, well, there's a couple of possibilities there. One is that you've just seen a ghost dog. The second one is that woman is a very similar person to me, was doing a tour, saw a dog run out of the room and said, if I tell people there's a ghost dog, and that's the thing, once you get these stories started, straight away he was, oh, yeah, but, and he will still tell that as a ghost story now. He likes the ghost story element of it, even though, again, there's quite a, what seems like a fairly obvious, fairly simple, possible explanation to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
The other one which I'll just bring up because it's one of my favourite ghosts of all time, in Bath, the old Roman town in England. There's a place called Bath, and you see how quickly you get to the right question here, both of you. They have a very famous ghost of a naked Roman soldier. Now, there is one obvious question that I have to ask as soon as I hear that story.
If he's naked, how do you know it's a Roman soldier?
Exactly. And yet this is one of their most favorite. If you go on any of their ghost walks, they'll tell you about this naked Roman soldier that runs. And you just think, well, hold on.
Did he have maybe just a helmet on? We're going to be a college kid at a toga party, but go on with your story.
Well, that's the other thing, of course, I always wonder about, because when I'm doing shows out and about, very often, if I'm not in my steampunk gear, very often I'm in historical gear.
Mm-hmm.
And very often, I'll be doing a show and I'll just pop down to the pub straight after the show. And then I'll be wandering back down some little country lane at night, and a car will drive past and just see me in the headlights. And I always think to myself, how many of those people have gone home and reported seeing a ghost? Just this guy wandering past in medieval dress in the middle of this lonely, abandoned country road. How many ghost stories am I actually in?
I've got this great idea. If we ever make it up there to like a steampunk type thing, and we go and we do this, what we'll do is whenever a car comes up, you walk in the lead. I'll fall 15 feet behind you, and I'll have a sign. So they see you, they're like, what the hell? And I'll have a sign that says, don't worry, he's not a ghost. And then Andrea, in her period garb, also behind me, can have a sign 15 feet behind me going, the guy in front of me is lying.
Or alternatively, exactly the same setup. I'm walking in front, you're walking behind me with a sign that says, the guy in front of me is not a ghost. And Andrea can walk behind you with a sign that says, but the guy in front of me is.
There you go. There we go. What do you say, Andrea? You kind of blurbled there. Uh-oh, she's froze up. Andrea!
Internet.
Yes.
Nothing.
Gurgle. A little. I mean, you're kind of there, but your camera's frozen. Reset your camera for me.
And we've had it pointed out in the chat that a naked Jewish soldier might be easier to confirm.
Not anymore, because really all the Christians are also circumcised. You know, pretty much from 1700 forward, 1800 forward. I don't know. Greg, perhaps your knowledge is better in that area.
What, the area of history or the area of circumcision? Which one of my knowledge is he?
The history of circumcision. When did Christians start getting circumcised?
Hang on, I'm sure I've got a book about the history of circumcision here somewhere. I don't know would be the correct answer.
But I know it's very common for at least the past century. I will give it that much, possibly 2 to 3 centuries. Oh no, Andrea left. Are you coming back, Andrea? Of course she left. She can't hear us. Here's what I'll do. See, now we just got like a upshot of Moana's skirt over your shoulder.
Sort yourself out, Moana. There we go.
Hold on, let me try to add Andrea back. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Hold on, we're gonna grab her back. Maybe. We'll see. Greg's like the center of attention now.
I'm huge now. I don't know.
I can switch it over to this. Is that better for you? Until Andrea gets back?
Yeah, I'm fine either way. I'm not watching on Twitch anyway. So
Oh, okay. Well, don't.
you have to go over and have a look at it. Well, Twitch does it a few moments behind, so it gets... Hey!
Okay.
See, now you guys have switched sides. That's going to confuse people. They're going to think Andrea's Greg.
You can move it. Just click
I
and move
like-
it. I can't
I like to
see
move
his
it, move
camera.
it. I can't move it.
I can't see Greg's camera.
Greg, would you kindly turn your camera off and back on, please?
I don't like this new Skype. What I was saying, because like 20 minutes ago, because it took me long to get back. So the ghost is not going to be a guy in a dress walking down the street.
Well, Greg could be in a dress. Or I can be, or we all can be. It's really reflects.
It's called a kilt.
That's true. Can you see Greg now?
No.
No. How about now?
No.
So, Greg, did you turn off your camera? Just click the camera icon for her. Count to 2, and then turn it back on.
Count
As
to
long
2.
as
You didn't
everyone
tell me there were
else-
going to be complicated instructions here.
Okay. Well, you don't have to count to 2 anymore. We've gone past that. So there you go, Andrea. Can you see him now?
Yes. Hi. Okay.
Hey!
He's blurry like
Yeah,
a
I don't
Bigfoot
like-
photo now.
I don't like this new Skype update.
No.
I'm working on learning Discord, so.
Yep. We're going to be shifting over soon, Greg. You'll have a new app you have to get, but it's less. It takes less resources than Skype does. So.
Fantastic.
It's what all the kids are using nowadays, and by kids I really mean anybody 35 and under. So it's time
Oh, good. I'm still down with the kids.
You are.
It's great.
Yeah, you are.
Put on your short shorts. Sit on my lap. See, this kind of stuff that got James Gunn fired.
See, he's already in the van. Is there candy?
You know who James Gunn is, right, Greg?
Yes, I know who James Gunn is.
And you heard what happened.
I haven't heard what's happened, no.
Disney fired him from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because back between 2008 and 2011, there were 2 tweets that were found that were inappropriate. One that said, "I like it when young boys touch me in my silly place." And another that said, "You know, the best thing about rape is when they stop raping you and you're like, whew, I'm not being raped anymore." These 2 tweets in particular got him fired, even though they're 10 years old, give or take.
10 years old, give and take. And I mean, the second one in particular is, you know, if it had been a rape joke going the other way, but from that direction.
You know, I get with our social climate how either of those,
I thought it was
you wouldn't do them today.
funny.
You just, I wouldn't put that on my Twitter nowadays, and I don't think you would either. And the point is, they're meant to be not supportive of the act, but mocking of. We get it, but Disney had to do what Disney had to do, and that's that.
Well,
What?
that's it. You get a lot of jokes about that sort of thing, and it is just,
Mhm.
you've got to look what the object of the joke is and everything else. On the flip side, I think Disney, they're a private company. They can fire anyone really if they want to. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, should we get back to Ghosts and avoid
Sure.
political correctness or whatever for the moment?
Now,
Speaking of Disney, there's Ghost. Go ahead. Segue.
they do have the Haunted Mansion. So Kennedy says not only 10 years old, but has been deleted them and even said that he was sorry for them back then. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is they're going to do what they have to do. And, oh, thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I love seeing your bits. It's, but yeah, you get the idea that, yeah, they're going to do what they do. And I'm guessing if they wanted to keep him around, they would have kept him around. But, they decided to get rid of him for more than just, oh, somebody found 2 tweets that were 10 years old. That was just good.
Yeah, I was going to say, that reminds me of a sketch I had a while ago. I forget who the target of it was. It was some presenter or other, and they were talking about the basic point of the sketch was, it's funny because he never appears on TV anymore. It's funny because he had these rape accusations and he was found completely innocent, so that can't be the reason we don't see him on TV anymore. But what it might have been was that gave everyone just enough time to stop and think whether they actually wanted to see this guy on TV anyway, and the answer was a resounding no. And if Disney get this thing in and they go, oh, we got these things, is this someone we actually want around enough that we want some hassle from it? Not really. And I think that's what a lot of these things boil down to, is it worth making a fight for someone?
Yeah, well, or they use it as linchpin to get rid of somebody that they have ulterior motives to get rid of. Whether James Gunn was getting to a point where he could renegotiate his contract and get a better deal, because James Gunn is very anti-Trump and he's very vocal about it, and it could be Disney is like, we're just waiting for him to step on a landmine and blow up, and we don't want to be around when look, we have something that the right wing dug up on him. Let's just use that shit and shuffle him under the carpet before we have a real problem that we have to deal with. And I think that's probably as much as what happened as anything else, because it's somebody else pointed out, we have public figures like Harvey Weinstein who, because of multiple charges of inappropriate behavior, and not necessarily rape, just, untoward sexual advances, etc., as well as some guys who are just, Greg keeps disappearing. He's in the dark. Are you there, Greg?
I'm here. I'm watching my screen flash on and off as well.
I don't know what's going on. It could be just the light adjustment happening.
It's a flasher.
It seems like you should have enough light. It shouldn't be an issue. Open your curtains at this point.
See if we got any more light outside at this point.
I think it's a ghost.
It could be.
I think it could be. We seem to be all right for the moment. So
to see somebody have their career take a ding like this because they put up 2 asinine tweets by their own admission, and have that be a comparable repercussion to people who were accused by dozens of people of inappropriate behavior, to have the level of punishment the same for these 2 things, it seems a bit unbalanced.
So, back to ghosts.
Okay. And by the way, if we hit a topic,
I think the ghost was walking in front of his.
If you're just uncomfortable or don't want to discuss somebody, just say it out loud. I don't want to talk about this. Let's move to something else. If that's what's happening.
No.
Okay.
I feel like this is discussed everywhere at the moment. You're just seeing it absolutely everywhere. Whereas we're not discussing ghosts enough.
I could go with that.
Speaking of ghosts, I think the ghost was walking in front of your camera, Greg. That's why it was blacking out.
It was mooning the camera.
Yeah.
Could well be it, yeah.
They want me to rate their support when all they did was pass me to somebody else. Oh, I don't think I'm going to rate that well. I'm trying to get an interview with a company on the show, and they pass me to another part of the company. Now they want me to rate the first part of support.
So, what's some ghost tales you have, Greg? Were you in bed? Did they start with you in bed?
Do you know what? I never had what I would consider to be a ghostly experience myself, but that may be because I would never look at something and come to that conclusion. There's probably a lot of situations that I've had where other people would leap to ghost, where I leap to, oh, what is making that noise? I mean, I was spent a lot of time in this gorgeous old house in just outside of Turin, a 3-story house, and I lived there largely on my own for quite a period of time, over a period of years, and it was a spooky place. Downstairs we had a room that was just full of masks, different theatre masks, but sort of some of them very, very creepy, some of them stylized. We had barley masks and different things like that. I often had to pop down there in the middle of the night to go and grab some stuff. So yeah, that's flashbacks now.
Nobody else saw a master. I don't know what you're afraid of.
But yeah, so I spent a lot of time there, and I'd have to go down through this room, and it would definitely be creepy, and occasionally you'd hear noises and things when you were down there, and I can quite easily see people going, that's scary, I'm not going down there. And in fact, we had other people who would not go down to that room at night because it was too creepy. Whereas for me, it's an old house. Old houses make noise, is what they do. There was one night when someone came down the stairs and were all a bit creeped out because they started hearing voices, just murmured voices in their room, and everybody was downstairs, and there was no way. They said, no, we thought someone was in the next room. We got all scared, and they were terrified, and they'd come up with all these theories of ghosts and things in their heads. And I said to them, well, you see this open fireplace we're all sitting next to? Well, that chimney runs right up beside your bedroom. They were like, oh, yeah. We get it.
And that's an aluminum flume.
Yeah.
that vibrates.
Yeah, that's it. And they'd leapt to the conclusion, oh, no, I hear voices. There's nobody here. It must be something spooky. Whereas, but yet at the same time, you can't rule out the possibility that of all these things we've been discussing, of different quantum ideas, of crossing over of different multiverses and things like that.
Or straight up, spirit of a dead guy. And I'd love for that stuff to be right and true and real. I want the supernatural to be natural. I want Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster to exist, but I'm not going to say they do till we have some evidence.
I don't know about Bigfoot. Doesn't he go through the trash?
No.
We already have a problem with raccoons.
The raccoons blame it on Bigfoot. They're like, squeak, squeak, squeak. Big guy, squeak. Now, here's a great one. This house that I lived in, which was a newer house, right by a man-made, using the term lake in Florida, you have to understand, a lake in Florida is more like a pond anywhere else in the world, but it was called a lake. But it was man-made. Basically, triangle-shaped, and on each shore of this lake, they had different complexes that had been built, whether apartments or townhouses or whatever. So I lived in one. I lived right on the lake. There's one night I'm outside of my complex, across the street, in just a huge, vast field, the kind of stuff you don't see in the UK because everything's been farmed, built on, organized, blah, blah, blah. But it's knee-high grass. It's after midnight, probably due before 2 a.m., and I'm walking through this field because basically I was going to a friend's house to sleep over, because it's what you do as a teenager. You're like, it's weekend or summer, I don't have anything to do. Let me just walk to my friend's house at midnight.
And I was sleeping over with his friend, and I was in bed, and I was touched by this ghost.
No, this happened in the field. I'm walking across the field. You ever heard the sound of a hot air balloon when it's a couple 100 feet above you? Okay, you're muted now, too. Did you sit on your mute?
It's all going on here.
Yes, it's a ghost messing with your electronics. So I hear this noise. Not like it's in the field with me, but and I didn't hear the sound from any particular direction. Now, just so you know, alligators make a very similar noise, but more of a. But it is a growling, And I'm in South Florida. I am literally just a few miles from the Everglades. There are man-made canals and lakes that these alligators often just travel the waterways and they end up in these things. It happens. So I'm walking across that field, middle of the night, hear this noise, don't see anything. Now, I'm not one to immediately panic and run. I stop, I assess, which sometimes may not be the smartest thing, especially if it's a fucking alligator. But it could have been I was just walking within 10 feet of an alligator that was in the field and it was like, don't come near me. Which I didn't go to look for I just keep moving. I did go back a day or two later, and approximately where I was, there was flattened grass. Now, there was not a crop circle. It was not a geometric pattern or shape. It was just, 8 or 10 feet of flattened grass, and not a box, not a circle, just an area, a rough area. So that's something I had happen that I couldn't explain.
And this is the thing: is I love the phrase "unexplained" because that is the phrase we should all be using. It's the same as UFO. UFO is so much better a term, and we don't have a term like that for ghost. UFO, unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean alien. It just means we don't know what it is. And we don't really have a term like that for ghosts. You go into ghosts, you go into paranormal and all of this.
I can't think what it is, but it's essentially somebody took the concept of UFO and translated it into a, unidentified experience. And there's a term, and I can't think what it is. But anyhow, go on. I know what you're saying. There's definitely not a common term that comes to mind easily.
No, that's it. And so, because we're putting a name on things, as soon as you, assign that name ghost to things, you're straight away in that position of, we're giving it a label, and that makes it so much more difficult to then backtrack and decipher what it actually is. Again, going into the world of magic, when you talk to people, if you say something like, okay, so we shuffled the deck. Well, yes, shuffle the deck is a term, and when you hear the term shuffle the deck, you take that the cards were thoroughly mixed up. And yet the term shuffle can mean so many different things. Did we just cut the deck and put some of them on the bottom? Did we thoroughly shuffle them? Did I shuffle them? Did you shuffle them? But once you put that in someone's mind, they retell the story, the deck was shuffled. It's the same as just saying ghost. It doesn't actually give you any information whatsoever.
Hey,
and it could be entirely fake anyway.
Let me ask you, next Wednesday when you're on, because by the way, for all our viewers, Greg is going to be joining us through the whole month of August on Wednesday. So, next Wednesday when you're on, do you want to talk about debunking psychics? Do you want to make that the topic?
Yeah, I'm happy to make that a topic next week.
Cool, because again, I'm always the cynic. As much as I am optimistic of these things could be possible, which isn't even saying they are possible, it's just saying they could be possible. There's this vague word in the middle of these things and possible.
Well, it's my phrase is always debunking fraudulent psychics. That's always the word I put in. Very importantly, debunking fraudulent. And we'll get into this next week. But it was one of the things when I've been touring that non-psychic psychic show. I went to one venue where I did the show, and I finished up the show, and the guy came over to me and said, "Oh, that was great show, blah blah blah." And then he said, "It's really funny. We had a psychic phone up, and they wanted to do a show in the theatre." And we said to them, "Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you come in before Greg's show? You can come in a day before Greg's show, or the day after. No, it was the day after Greg's show. He could do his show. You could be like the counterpoint and do the psychic thing." And funny enough, this psychic refused to perform anywhere near the time that I was due to perform, giving away fraudulent psychic techniques. Now, I don't know who that psychic was, and I'm certainly not saying she's a fraud because psychics are litigious. But on the flip side, I'm so careful not to say names. They really are over here. On the flip side, I had another psychic a few weeks later who was performing at a steampunk event I was at, and I got on stage for the evening show, and I'd not decided what I was doing in the evening show. It was just a steampunk show. I had 20 minutes, and I saw this psychic in the audience, and I thought, I'm going to do 20 minutes from the non-psychic show. And I did a bit of this reading bit that I do, sort of poking a bit of fun at the whole idea and everything else. And it was really good fun. And the next day she came over to me and she said, I'll tell you what, we should do an event sometime. We should do a night where we both go on stage and I do psychic readings and you do your stuff and you also examine what I'm doing and you try and pick holes. And I thought, right, that is someone who, whether or not they're psychic, either, and again, it's either or,
Sure.
Either they believe they're psychic and they're not, or they believe they're psychic and they are, or they believe they're cleverer than me and I wouldn't catch them out. Whichever one of those three it is, it's much nicer to have someone, I have more faith that she believes in her own psychic powers because she's willing to say, oh no, I don't think you'd
I'll
figure
take
out.
your challenge, yeah.
That's it, rather than someone just saying, no, I won't go near him.
Let me interrupt real quick. Overdrive popped in and says, debunking psychics, how dare you doubt my mind powers? Or how dare you?
I knew he was going to say that.
You did. Overdrive is, he's a guy that popped in a month or 3 ago and then popped back like a week or 2 ago and kind of has showed up regular since then. He's got a great sense of humor. And he's our kind of asshole. We just, a little love to this guy. Because he rolls beautifully with a joke. He's clever and witty and fast and fun. So it's good stuff. But yeah, I think if you could get somebody that will go, oh, I'll stand next to you and I'll do what I do while you do what you do, I think that's a beautiful thing. Because the bottom line is, people are going to walk away believing what they want to believe anyway. No matter what you do.
He has also added now that he does his best psychic readings on the crapper, which does limit his clientele. Can I just say, what you want to go down the route of now is you want to go down the route of telephone psychic? Because, unless you flush, nobody's going to know anyway.
That's true. That's true, except for the echo. And Chuck popped in. Funky Punk is Chuck saying, I have a robot voice. Yeah, I'm trying it out. I have found that since I can't turn women on, I am attempting to pick up toasters and blenders and other. Hey, baby, want to dance? I can't even do the robot. I tried to have sex with my blow-up doll. She told me no. And no means I'm going to pop that bitch. Not a good joke. Never mind. I take it back. I did not mean to offend latex Americans across the country.
Oh, I mean, that's a thing now, isn't it? But speaking of doing silent, what whitest robot dance ever?
I know, isn't it?
I like that comment.
Yeah, it's
But going back to doing psychic readings on the crapper, it's one of those things that we.
I love the fact that you're like, let's go back to that again.
Yeah, well, I'm going back to that because it strikes me as interesting. It's got nothing to do with that at all. I just think it's a weird way to spin off. When we talk about ghosts, it's funny. We talk about ghosts of people seeing things, and you hear ghosts, but you very rarely get people talking about smelling ghosts. And this is one of my pet theories: is that there are a lot of ghosts, and one of the most common bodily functions is to break wind. And so all those times you're in a room where there's suddenly that smell of a fart and nobody claims to have done it. How do we know that's not a ghost in the room then?
Andrea, are you getting your video?
What video?
Julian. She's going to get you a video that addresses this very issue, and she'll drop it in the chat. It's just a YouTube video. Matter of fact, it's Hugh Laurie on Saturday Night Live or something like that, I believe. And so it's got a Brit in it, so you'll be able to understand it. He speaks English, unlike the rest of us.
And Travis has been replaced by a robot replica manufactured by the lizard people.
Lizard people and aliens was our Monday night topic. You're familiar with David Icke, who lives on the island where you.
Yes. Oh yeah, I know all about David Icke.
It's his lizard people theory. When I first heard
We
it,
learned about him Monday.
we did because Kevin, of course, was on, and he lives near you. But I took his lizard person theory and I've threaded it all the way through my sci-fi and fantasy novels. So they're called true odds as opposed to whatever he calls them. But anyhow, I won't pimp the books. It was fun to take that theory, and I have now linked other massive theories to these beings, including the theory of Atlantis, some of the historical things from 3000 BC. There's the link for that.
The link in the chat.
It's but yeah, it's.
It's all right. I got distracted in the middle of there, going on to perception of that. I got slightly distracted because I couldn't figure out what your screen was doing. You've got lovely lines on your T-shirt. You've got that nice green box on the shoulders of your T-shirt, and it's lining up. I don't know if there's a recess in the wall or whether it's the Batman poster behind you. And it was lining up with that, and it looked like there was a dark box around your head, and I was trying to figure it out. And it reminds me of a rather embarrassing problem I had earlier on. I was in a car park. I pulled into a shop to get some snacks for the evening, and I pulled in, and I was reversing my van into a parking space, and I stopped, and then I looked out the window, and the car next to me, and I was rolling backwards. And I was panicking, and I had my foot on the brake, and I was putting it as hard as I could on the brake, and I grabbed the handbrake and everything. And then I realised that the car next to me was pulling forward out of the space. And I felt a little bit stupid because I'd had this panic. But again, it's another thing that just shows perception and how quickly we can make a mistake.
And how many times have we done that with sitting at a traffic light, and we look at the car next to us, and suddenly they start rolling back for whatever reason. The hell? Oh, they're moving, not me. Okay. Whew.
Yeah.
I once applied to be a psychic. True story.
You applied to be a psychic?
True story. Yeah. In Florida in the late 80s, this is when the psychic hotline and the tarot hotlines on the phone, and back in the 80s, these would pay like $11 to $14 an hour, which is great money for the late 80s. Hell, it's not too bad nowadays. But I remember I called, it was a tarot hotline in particular, and the guy who runs the joint, that's great, comes and goes. Check your plug for your camera, or is your camera just part of your machine?
It's part of the machine. I think it's light.
Okay, it could just be. It's just the light.
If I turn the torch on, we're going to have to do this by torchlight for a bit, right? There we go.
Is that going to be okay? You got enough batteries or whatever? Because if we need to, I could just make Andrea full screen, and you could just be a voice in the darkness.
Well, we'll carry on with the torch for a moment. I should have enough battery for now.
And, see, Overdrive says that lizard people have a history of replacing individuals that go against the grain and have reached peak influence. Copernicus, Einstein, Elvis, and now, sadly, Travis. Chuck says you applied, but they couldn't see you, foresee you in their future. Actually, what happened is I called, and at this point in time, I would have been about 18. And the guy answers the phone, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like, I'd like to read tarot for your phone line. He's like, great, give me a reading. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, give me a reading. I'm like, I'm going to have to call you back. It totally threw me. I didn't have that much bullshit in my system to bullshit on demand. It was... But yeah, I never called back.
I mean, same situation today. You're there, aren't you? He says, "Give me a reading." You're on it.
Probably. It's especially if I have some cards in front of me, because the cards, and this is what I've often said about.
No, you should have said, "Hey, I see you're gonna hire a new great employee. Wait, that's me."
I should have.
I would have gone along the lines of, okay, well. You're somebody who's dissatisfied with their work, because let's face it, that's his job.
That could be. It's and the women you meet, man, you're hoping they look better, but they are usually just fat, ugly housewives with nothing else to do during the day. But the thing I've always said about tarot is tarot has as much ability and power and accuracy as you want it to have. As you know, it's whatever you believe it's doing, that's what it'll do for you, because it's like anything. You know, I can flip to the middle of any one of my books, flip it open, and tell you this paragraph right here is going to define what's going on in your life right now. And if you take that information and you wrap your head around it and you glue it onto your life, going, oh, wait, I see parallels, then it looks like I was right, and my book is a psychic book.
And that's the thing, and there's so much of this going on. Obviously, the real skill of a psychic is that wonderful thing of if they tell you something and it doesn't fit, it's well, you just haven't run into that yet. That's in your future.
I remember when seeing some of these debunkers come out throughout the, again, late 80s, early 90s, where, thank you for calling the Psychic Network. We predict your next phone bill will be $50 higher. I loved watching them debunk these things. And more so than loving them debunking it, I loved the skill the people they were debunking have to actually pull this off. Between, like, sleight of hand, the story that goes with it, that is 30% of your distraction. Moving this hand when you're doing something with this hand to draw the attention up here, you know, that's another 30%. And then it's an amazing stack of talents that these people have that they're using for this one very legitimate con. I don't want the word con here to feel negative, because they are there. And now they all have, this is for entertainment only.
Which is like, fine as long as they treat it like that.
Well, it's kind of like holistic medicine. You'll see on a lot of holistic medicine that this is for, I don't think they say entertainment purposes only, but they no longer claim these things absolutely work, because if it doesn't work in a lab, guess what? And on the other hand, there have been some holistic things where now we're using the shit as real medicine because it did work.
Well, that's it. There's fantastic Tim Minchin line. Do you get Tim Minchin over there? Comedy pianist, singer?
I think might have seen him, but no, he's not somebody who brings an image to mind.
He's fantastic, but he has a wonderful line in one of his songs that there's a name for alternative medicines that have been proved to work. It's medicine.
Yes, I have heard that line.
Yeah,
and it's true. And now I don't know, faith is the wrong word. When we get to chakras, basically energy centers in the body, because the body does produce an electrical field, I feel like this has some validity. Maybe not 7 points all right up and down there. Maybe not this point reaches that point. Hold on. Overdrive says, in what other context can con be used? It certainly doesn't bring up positive connotations. Well, it does when you say convention and you call it a con. There you go.
And I mean, con just means confidence. That's what the word is short for. So, confidence. You were saying...
What was I saying?
You were saying something, because I had a point that was going to come off of it. Chakras and things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, chakras and things, and all of these ideas. And like you say, there's a lot of good stuff that there's stuff in there, and it's the same thing as I said right back at the beginning about ghosts, which is once you say, right, there's this energy. If you say there's some sort of energy in the human body that we can't understand, I'm probably going to be behind you, yes, there's stuff about the human body we don't understand. There certainly is. We still can't create life from nothing. There's still something we don't understand. But once you go, right, there's something we don't understand, so it's called chakras. You've got 7 of them. They do energy in this pathway and we can't prove this. That's when I go, whoa, you're not helping. The same as with ghosts. As soon as you say, right, there's something I don't understand, it's called a ghost, you're not helping. Just go with, there's something I don't understand. There's energy in the body. We don't really know how it works. We've tried this. This seems to be working, and that's a scientific approach. It seems to be working, but we'll see if it does.
Hey, Andrea, if you stare at him for a second, with that light. He kind of looks like Charlie Day, and there's another actor he kind of looks at in this
The guy
certain
from
light.
Deadpool.
Maybe. By the way, Kennedy says, one question I ask people that believe so many things that aren't proven or even ridiculous, what is fake? Now, I'm going to step out on a limb here. I find it great when people put down chakras or acupuncture, but then they will quote Jesus and prayer to you in the same breath. And this is not knocking faith. Please keep your faith, and if that is part of who you are and what you use to get through the day, absolutely, good luck. But quit shutting other people down when they have something just as provable or not provable that they believe in. And I think that's what Kennedy's getting at, is like, if you say this is fake, why is your shit real?
It is that fantastic thing of, I believe in, whatever it may happen to be. Oh, what's that? You believe in the Loch Ness Monster? You're mad. You believe in aliens?
Silly. Yeah.
You're mad. You believe in this or that? You're mad. And yet, hold on. How do you draw the line? Where is the rules of what is acceptable to believe and what is not?
Yep, I agree. John says I tend to move toward the subject that has the largest body of evidence. Yeah, and even with like the chakra thing, I don't believe in chakras. I just believe there is some energy coming out of the human body that we have yet to create a machine that can measure it and define it and box it up and pretty something that we can understand. So I don't discount it totally, but yeah, I'm not taking it as. And I'm really disappointed to hear that acupuncture is not right, because I really felt like maybe they are hitting nerve endings and deadening nerve endings to create, a better. I feel better after this.
It may be a placebo effect, but it does help some people.
It could be in placebos, by the way. I endorse placebos as medicine. Because if you can do something and your mind goes, I feel better, and you genuinely feel better. Yeah.
And it helps. A placebo, I think, is to trick the mind to have the body heal itself, because it can. So why not?
And Overdrive says, I'm starting to think this gentleman, by the way, that's Greg Overdrive. He's our buddy. He'll be joining us every Wednesday for the next couple weeks.
And just to be clear, Overdrive, he's no gentleman.
Oh.
Nip that in the bud right now.
Well, anybody connects to an American is relatively a gentleman. So, I'm starting to think this gentleman was onto something with his idea of flatulence having a legitimate connection to the paranormal. I think that there should be a multi-billion-dollar study to find the truth of it. The oddest thing is smells are largely connected, more so than sight or sound, to memory. Smells trigger the memory more than any other sense. Or stronger.
Guys.
Yes?
I'm going to put this video out again.
Okay.
Save it for later. It's along the same lines of what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a great video, guys. Click on that link. Keep it in a tab. Check it out after the show. Hilarious. But there are haunted smells where suddenly a smell appears from somewhere. This is, oh my God, I almost said documented.
I had a teenage kid. I know there's haunted smells.
Not as much as spiders. I don't get it, John. What'd I miss? Which part? I don't know, John. John, with the spider thing, I don't know what you're relating it to, but that's probably me, not you. I just want it to be real. You ever walk into a room and go, this is creepy, I don't feel like it's haunted, but hold on a minute, and you stand there and you work yourself up till you're like, no, there's something in the fucking room with me, I need to get out of here right now. You ever do that to yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean, we all did it. I mean, I'm here in my van. I used to camp in a tent, and one of the things that I did like doing in the tent was finding ghost stories and horror. Behave yourself.
The comment. No, the comment. I was giggling at his comment.
I don't think the government will be allowed to, go down that route of the quality of. Oh no, I see what you're saying. It's like, but yeah, we all enjoy that. That is why we go to the theatre, for example. Mm-hmm. It's why horror movies, scary movies, and things are so popular. we like to be taken down these routes. We like to be
Mhm.
driven down that route. But at the same time, it's that question of whether you cross the line into this is real or whether underneath you know you're okay.
Right. There was one time I guess my son was 3 at the time, so it had been about 12 years ago. And the one house we just moved into, this was right after the divorce from my ex-wife, so my boy was with me part of the time, her part of the time. Well, this is my 3-year-old son started having nightmares. Like, he wouldn't wake up screaming or anything, but he'd toss and turn and moan in his bed, and I'd go in and comfort him, and he'd calm down. And one night when he wasn't there, I'm walking through this house. It's a 3-bedroom house, rather large-ish house. Huge compared to a lot of places I saw in the UK, modern buildings, but small compared to some American houses. And I went, you know what? Here we go. And I turned off every light in the house. It was after dark. It wasn't middle of the day, just to be clear. And I specifically went into my son's room where I had been feeling something. There was something there. And this is where my son would have his nightmares. So I went in there, just in my boxers, sat down in the middle of the dark room, and out loud said, okay, come on, come get me, come touch me, move something, say something, cause something to happen. And I sat there for 10 minutes, and of course, nothing happened. So then I got up and turned on the light and went, well, that's done. And then I walked into the bathroom and went, now I should do it right here in front of the mirror. Because mirrors in the dark freak me out sometimes, not always. I did not have the balls to do it in front of the dark mirror. But, yeah, I basically, after that, it was amazing. I stopped having nigglings of fear where I would normally have it. And pretty much since then, I have lost a lot of the fear that I have. It's all just so much easier to be logic once you prove to yourself there's nothing in the dark. And I was
I mean, we are
Mhm.
fundamentally trained to have this fear of the dark. That is a fundamental element of what we are. But it always makes me laugh. I mean, I'm in the van tonight. One of the things I will do before I go to sleep is I'll make sure the doors of the van are locked.
Sure.
Well, when I was here last year, I was sleeping in a tent. Now, this van is way more secure than a tent even before the doors are locked.
Good point.
And yet, because I've got locks, I will have them locked. I will secure myself. I wouldn't feel safe sleeping in this van with the doors unlocked, whereas I was perfectly happy, and I would still be perfectly happy, sleeping in a tent that just has a zip and is made of a very, very thin material. It is just a strange idea we have of what's safe and what's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, with my front door, I just already told you, I lock my front door, no matter what. It has a big oval of glass, like 5 foot, top to bottom, almost 2 feet across. Anybody who wants in this door can get in with ease. It's not double pane glass, it's just a fucking sheet of... Matter of fact, it's kind of stained glass, so it's, glued together with the lead, whatever. Anybody can break through this without a problem. This is not going to be an issue for somebody that they can pick up something off my porch and put it through this glass and unlock the door. But I still lock the door. Because, yeah. And Kennedy says, I meant before, there are people who believe in every type of alternative medicine and supplement, but they can't answer what is bunk and what doesn't work. That's because they believe in it. So that's why hiding under a blanket protects us from monsters. Yes, exactly, Kennedy. That's very true. Or hiding behind your line of salt or your religious symbol. Ooh. Overdrive says, one time I came home late after a night of drinking and immediately heard a voice saying, I know this joke, get out. Needless to say, I got out of there and went out onto the front lawn and realized that these conniving trickster spirits have moved my car, my garage, and all my worldly possessions to the dwelling next door. Oh, those spirits, they're so tricky. Greg is guest starring straight from Blair Witch Project tonight.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh man, get a tissue. Don't let that shit drip right out your nose. That's just. I think even in the middle of the forest being hunted by something, I would not let snot drip down my face. I'd use my sleeve, something like that. It's Yeah, I don't think I'd be like,
Then there wouldn't have been all the jokes, you know.
that's true. One time I was at a
Don't know
museum.
what.
Sorry, this is last night. I mentioned we played Crypto Mysteries. Roughhead, whose name is Kennedy, was one of the players, and he's quoting from the game last night. One time, I was at a museum and a sarcophagus opened, and I think a mummy ran right past me. True story. That's, so, so are you just on the road for the next month then?
I'm on the road Tuesday nights and Wednesday nights. I'm out and about. I basically over the 6 weeks we have the 6 week school holiday over here, and over that 6 weeks, the general rule, I kind of have a deliberately set show schedule. So I come up north and I do Tuesday I'm at a place called the Forge Mill Museum in Redditch. For anyone that's in England listening, on Wednesdays I do Sudley Castle in Gloucestershire, and on Thursdays I do the fantastic Black Country Living History Museum, and that's all the 6 weeks. So it's the one time of the year when I actually have a regular schedule. But it does mean I have those 2 nights a week away, and then in between that, I'm doing other events. I'm doing, I think, this weekend coming up, I'm at the Steam Railway in the Isle of Wight, where I know you've been. I'm going in a couple of weeks' time. We've got a big fairy festival, all sorts of stuff going on in between that. But yeah, I have these few days a week for the next 6 weeks where I'm just regularly, always in the same little campsite where I've stayed for years. Then I just come up just down the road from Sudley Castle and I chill out and do some shows.
So, how'd your Kickstarter end? Did you get above 85? Or Indiegogo,
No,
sorry.
no, we did. Well, we got up to 90, but it didn't hit the minimum threshold. So
I'm sorry, man.
what was very, very nice was some of those people who'd put in did contact us anyway and said, well, right, how do we PayPal the money over to you?
That's sweet.
Which worked out better than it would have done in the first place. So
That's true. There's less fees that way, so.
less fees that way. But yeah, it's the same, it's all the same sort of thing. I mean, I say that didn't work, but at the same time, over that month, I had a couple of nice boosts on the Patreon support, which is really what I push long term, is the Patreon. That's the one that keeps going, keeps running. That's the one we're going to use to do the second series of The Last Airship and everything else.
So where is it? Support Greg Chapman
supportgreg.co.uk.
Okay. And where's that leading right now?
I was going to say, I need to put that back. You've just reminded me. I need to get straight on and put that back to make sure it goes to the Indiegogo account.
Okay, what you mean the Patreon?
Not the Patreon account. That's the one.
Okay, what's your Patreon account?
It is patreon.com/Greg Chapman.
Okay, let me just pull that up and post that. Guys, in case you don't know who Greg is, if this is your first time seeing him, Greg is an entertainer, a lot of steampunk stuff, magic, juggling, fun humor, but also he and his new steampunk web series, Last Airship, which Andrea and I were in, and he's working on Series 2, which for you Americans is Season 2. But on Patreon, there he is, and they're also now working on basically an educational, entertaining show to bring around to schools and the younger generation, basically going, here's how we can stop killing ourselves by killing our world. That might be a bleak way of putting it, but...
Yeah, actually, I think that's pretty fair, actually. And the thing about Patreon, because I've got one, and I know there's a talk of the Tavern Patreon as well. The thing about Patreon is it's one of those where it really matters if somebody goes and puts $1 in, because it has this wisdom of crowds thing going on. The more backers you've got, the more people are likely to back you in the future. So
True.
if you've got any creator, whether it's Talk of the Tavern, whether it's me, whether it's any other creator that has a Patreon account, and you have $1 to spare a month, and I mean, I back a couple of people on Patreon who I enjoy their podcasts and things. If you've got $1 to spare a month, it may feel like, oh gosh, no, $1's not going to do anything at all. But that dollar not only adds up over the number of people who give dollars, it also inspires other people to have the confidence to put money into that Patreon account as well. So
it does.
Yeah, as little as $1 a month really does help support the artists that you're following.
It's and I want to say I believe you're one of the people that supports me every month on Patreon.
I believe I am.
I believe you are. It's I tend to read off the names once a month on air to thank everybody, but it doesn't necessarily mean I remember day to day who I thanked yesterday. A few comments here. Let's see. Overdrive says Andrea is in the process of sewing me an adult onesie so that I might never have to wear traditional clothing again. Kennedy wore one of those last night in the game. Chuck says I got lost. I found myself. They were not happy. I did it in the nude and I was at work. Yeah, and Overdrive very supportively says to Chuck, I can't believe that's frowned upon. I have to agree. There's my patrons. They put these little icons on the side, and they're like big things. And then you're like, oh, here's my patrons, and you click on it, and it doesn't actually have their names. It's like, I don't know what I'm looking at. There we go. There's the names. There's Greg over there. So, yeah. I appreciate that. And who else is up there? Kennedy, who's viewing right now, supports me here. Something else I pointed out to my viewers, percentage-wise, Patreon is the best way to support whoever you like. Because if you're sending money via Kickstarter, Indiegogo, even PayPal, or Twitch, they keep like 30%. Now, Kickstarter is like 10%. But Patreon, if I'm not mistaken, it's 6% or something like that. It's a smaller percentage than most.
It is, and it's one of the things I like about the whole crowdfunding thing, and I really enjoyed it with the last airship, and it's why I have the Patreon account, and we're doing the last airship too in the same way, is it's also just that support from the fans, but also the connection to people who are getting involved with helping. I enjoy it on both sides. I enjoy being a patron of things because it lets you feel more involved with it. You get some of the behind the scenes stuff. You get to hear more about what's going on. But also, I like doing little clips and releasing them only to those people that support me on Patreon. I'll put little behind the scene videos together and I'll release it. And I like knowing that those people who are offering that support, there's an easy way to say, oh, you're someone that's supporting me. Here's a little bit extra for you. There's not another easy way to do that, really.
No, there's not, especially when we're so used to just handing out our content for free to everybody. So to give a little extra to these other folks, and by the way, Kennedy says, I actually messaged Greg on Facebook about supporting Indiegogo. So he's one of those people.
Ah, yes, so he did, yes. Thank you, Kennedy.
Joseph
Yes,
Kennedy.
Yeah, your money would have been refunded, unfortunately, but yes, he did. He did pop a little bit into the Indiegogo campaign as well. He did send me a message. So thank you for your support, Kennedy, even though it didn't unfortunately end up going all the way through. But we do appreciate, like I say, it's also just knowing that there are people out there who want to help out as well.
Right. It's and you know, I have some folks who they will never have the subscriber thing in Twitch because they are supporting on Patreon. And frankly, out of the $5, if you give me $5 on Twitch, I get $2.49. You give me $5 on Patreon, and I get $4.70 or something. So yeah, it's and the beauty part of this is Patreon has now set it up where you can link with Discord and other services.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And let me remind everybody.
I just remembered that one, yeah.
What Greg just did, guys, is he supported us with Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime linked to your Twitch account, you can subscribe to our channel. Doesn't cost you a cent, but it gives us a couple bucks, and we really appreciate it. So thank you, Greg. Here's to you, man. Here's to you. Don't forget, every week you're on to pimp yourself. Let them know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we certainly will, yeah.
That's what you were here for.
But I think there's an annoying thing with that Amazon Prime thing where you have to keep subscribing every month, I think. It's even if you've done it before, go back and do it again. Because I know I did that before a while ago as well.
If you click on
because some people change.
If you click on the screen, or mouse over the screen, you're going to see a little blue crown. And when you click on that and subscribe that way, it will actually give you a reminder when you need to resubscribe. And that's the only way to get a reminder that your subscription ended. And if you want to support it, oh, you know what I need to do right now? Hold on, I gotta grab. You get to get in my brick. See, I have a Talk of the Tavern brick, and I grab a cigar band. So unless if you absolutely just hate smoking, let's grab one from the bottom and get Greg something interesting here. What's that? Oh, see, that's a pretty band for you, Greg. Let me just hold that up there. We're going to just write your name on that. Is there a certain color you want, or can it just be black?
It could be whatever you want.
Black it is. We're just going to add your name. And this, putting your name in here will allow you to get into drawings when I do those, etc. But it's all my subscribers go in my little jars, so a little way of making you feel special without having to be alone with you in a dark room. No, Chuck, that's for all subscribers. I have you in here also, because I went through my list and did this. This is something I just started doing, but hold on, let me find Chuck. Chuck, I want to say I put you on a Gloriana Cubana band, which is one of my go-to. Okay, that's Devnal. Let's see, there's It's Wood Podcast. There's Dragon Slayer. There's Andrea. Uni. Skipper. James Zombie. Spacey Tracy. Greg again. Pickle Lady. There's Funky Punk. What do I got you on here? I got you on Nika Libre. Oh, wait a minute. What video? Oh, you want a video? Oh, okay, I see what you're doing. So Overdrive said, if you subscribe, Travis will send you a video of him doing interpretive dance to the song Funky Town. And Chuck asks, is that only for new subscribers? Greg is interrogating himself with his left hand. That's right. That's right. Overdrive, you got me there, and this leaves evidence that it wasn't me, that it was the 15 names in the jar that did this. So, good times there. Greg, you know to interrupt at any point in time if you have something to say.
Oh, I know to interrupt.
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
oh,
good.
yes.
Just making sure that you're not being all British and polite and shit.
Oh, no. I will cut you off in a heartbeat when I have something
Good.
interesting to say.
Good. We're going to just raise that subscriber goal to, we are now 14 out of 15, and I just want to let people know that subscriber goal, when I hit 15, I just want to let you know what special event is going to happen. And what I have planned when we hit 15 subscribers is I'm going to go into the settings and change that subscriber goal to 15 out of 20. So, yeah, nothing's actually happening. I'm just putting it there to encourage people. There will be something. I think when I hit 25, I have planned for like a...
25.
What am I doing? Is that the pajama party, or is that like the 24-hour broadcast? Overdrive, when are you going to stop apologizing for ridiculous? That's why we like you.
So make me come down there. No, I think that's going to be the pajama party.
That's pajama
And
party.
Ed has let us know. He's like, oh, I don't wear pajamas. Okay, just keep the camera up here.
It'll just be Ed from here up. Wait, which one of you who are you making the onesie for again? Was that Chuck or was that Overdrive?
$20 is $20.
Yeah, it was Overdrive.
I don't know. My machine's messed up. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it. So nobody at the moment.
Greg does a lot of sewing. He might be able to help. What do you know about sergers, Greg?
I was going to say, that you said it, I'm looking going, I wonder if I can figure out what's wrong.
You might.
It won't. The threads won't chain up. I think it's something in here. I don't know.
It's, by the way, push the envelope. Nah, you're fine, Overdrive. You have not really hit the edge of the envelope yet, man. You're
No,
cool.
the envelope's way off.
Yeah, it's, and by the way, Thunderheart, I don't know if you were here, but I see your Facebook message. I will reply after the broadcast. So back to hauntings. You want to hear more experiences I've had?
Yeah, let's hear more of your experiences.
I have performed an exorcism on a teddy bear over the phone. True story.
I mean, you can't leave it at that.
Well, I have to leave it like that just for a moment to let it sink in, because the rest of the story isn't nearly as funny as the opening line. It's the rest of it just goes downhill. And Overdrive is claiming that onesie, and don't forget to sew a tie on for business attire. And he doesn't like the back flap; he just likes the hole. Okay, so I guess I was 14 or 15, and this is during the period where I was investigating different religions, not only Christian faiths, but other faiths, including, some of your more pagan faiths, or what now is called pagan, then was generally just Wiccan. And I was meeting other teens and people in their early 20s who were interested in these things, and I had one girl who called me, and she had to be younger than me. And yes, she claimed her 3-foot tall teddy bear was possessed by a demon and talking to her and telling her to do things. So I went, great, put the teddy bear on the phone, please. And she did, and I said, now, can you still hear me? Do you have the phone so both the bear and you can hear me? And she's like, yes. I'm like, great. So I talked to the teddy bear, and she translated for me. And after a 10-minute conversation of questions, okay, response, I basically convinced the teddy bear, or the demon in the teddy bear, to leave and go away and leave her and the teddy bear alone. Now this one, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and basically when I made sure she's listening, so she thinks the demon is gone, so the demon is gone. Basically, I exercised her psychosis for the moment. I have no doubt she had many more moments like this throughout her life, and probably medication was in her future. That could be my psychic abilities, though. I did have an experience in a New York diner. I was 17 at the time. My roommate was 27. 2 in the morning, we're at a diner in New York, which is a great thing to do. And in the booth behind us, there was 2 young ladies who we started talking to, and eventually we're all sitting together. And the young lady that I was talking to, I started to ask her a few questions, and then I mentioned the abuse that she suffered. And she's like, yeah, and I described some of the events around it. She's like, this is amazing. You must be psychic. And we also discussed this Monday. And I totally attribute this to my amazing psychic powers, or perhaps that I just recognize victim mentality and response. And this is what triggered. I've seen this in people. I've known people who act this way, and this is the reason they're reaching out to strangers at 2 in the morning. And at 17, I was able to do this. Now I look at people and go, you've got issues. Go fix your shit. I don't have time to tell you about it. Cast spirit into Furby. Yeah, that's actually how Furbies came to be. All these displaced stuffed animal spirits needed a place to go, and Hasbro went, we got a place. Come here. Get into the doll. Get into the Furby. See, I'm not giving you much to debunk. I self-debunk these things.
I see. So, well, I'm going to debunk a story because I was once a ghost. This is a fairly mean story.
Roll on.
It's one of those stories where you look back and you go, I was a nasty person, but it was funny at the time. When I was working in Italy, we had a couple of actresses come over and stay, and they were staying in this flat. And in this flat, there was this weird, slightly creepy porcelain doll. And it looked a bit creepy. It was slightly faded, very, very slightly odd. And they would sort of go back to his flat, and we'd drop them off each night, and they'd got to, and they just started to tell us how creepy this doll was. Well, they didn't know that we had a spare set of keys to this particular flat. And so every so often, one of us would just go in and just move the doll half an inch. Just enough that it had moved, but not enough that it had obviously been moved. And so they're going in there looking at, I'm sure it's moved. I'm sure it. And they get in the car and they say, I'm sure it had moved. I'm sure it had moved. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. And I'm quite sure they now tell that story as this haunted porcelain doll.
See, but it's so much easier for them to believe that this otherworldly energy or spirit existed than even considering the possibility that somebody had a key and moved it a little.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's it.
this goes back to Sherlock Holmes with the classic line of once you have eliminated everything that's impossible, the what remains is the most probable, or something along those lines. Feel free to fix that quote because I know I fucked it up, but
I believe it's something along the lines of once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the correct solution, or something along those lines.
Yeah. It's and that. Go ahead.
But the trick to that is deciding what's impossible. Because if you reach the point where what is impossible, well, do you rule out the ghosts within that what's impossible, or do you not? I think what you end up with, in reality, that's a slightly misleading quote. Really, it's got to be what is there most evidence for, what is most likely, because you can never eliminate every single possibility until you get down to one.
See,
you can only go for what's the most likely thing.
I've always liked that quote from Sherlock Holmes because I felt like it left it open to, oh, it could be a spirit. It could be something like that. On a serious note, Overdrive, I'm not even going to read this shit if it's going to be serious. The hell. I had a coworker that told me that his mother had told him that she'd been raped by a ghost. I stared at him briefly, waiting for a breaking character that never came. Once I realized he was serious and believed it, I just said, whoa, that sucks, bro. Well, it's possible that took place during the...
And so does the ghost.
That's right. It's, let's see, what else have I had? Now, another thing I was investigating in my teens, I love the concept of portals. People would ask me when I was 12 years old, they're like, oh, if you had one wish, what would it be? And I'm like, I want to be able to open a portal to any time, any place, and physically step through and be there. And they're like, what? It confused them. They're like, they were waiting for invisibility, reading minds, flying. And I'm like, I want to be able to open a portal and step through and go to any time or place I want to be. And they're like, why? What? And I'm like, if I want money, right into a bank vault. I want toys, right into a closed toy store in the middle of the night. Take whatever I want. And they're like, that's really smart. I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's what we do. So I was fascinated with portals. Every time I picked up a new author, it seemed like the book related to, like characters coming from this world to a fantasy medieval world, or portaling to another world magically. And this was a fascination. It still threads itself throughout my books. The one character, Jack Tucker, I mentioned, that's his ability. He can portal to different times and places. Okay. Well, there was one time out in the woods in the middle of Florida, I found a natural archway. A tree branch created a natural archway, and me and my two friends sat there, two chicks, and I found a stone in front of it that had 3 holes in it, and a stick right next to it that fit perfectly in one hole. And as you will when you're 14, you sat there and you fucked with it. And we focused, and they're like slapping all the bugs. Not a single bug is touching me. And I attribute this to basically I'm not heavy breathing. I don't have a higher body temperature because I'm not hyper excited. And them being right next to me, they were. But they found it incredible that I could sit there and not be eaten by bugs. And we focused on this, and they went, I think it's shimmering. I went, well, it doesn't matter until it actually opens and you can step through. An hour later, we go on our way. Well, my buddy, who was Wiccan, was setting up a Wiccan temple in those woods. And it was a week later, he and one of the girls that had been there with me called me in a freaked out panic on the phone. They're like, Travis, you opened a door to somewhere. Something came through. And it was chasing us through the woods. And I said, okay, come over. Come here. I'll take care of this. Now, this guy was supposedly the leader of the coven, etc. He shows up with this girl. And I don't know if you can see it behind me on the shelves, there is a marble obelisk.
Yeah.
I had one like that, but it was black. And I put this in front of us, and I said, okay, we're going to take this energy, we're going to put it into this obelisk. And 20 minutes later, they both swear they could see like a mucus-colored egg with red veins through it, and it was inside this obelisk. I said, there you go. We have now captured the energy. You can leave. And they called me the next day going, "It's incredible, this thing is gone. Great job." You want to debunk that one, Greg? Because I think that one's pretty tight.
No. I think you're pretty solid there.
There's a bear.
It was a bear in my helpless growl.
What they saw was like hallucination from the stuff in the forest.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, people get excited about things and they feel something because they've elevated their own blood pressure, chemicals in the brain, etc. Overdrive says, "I will now call on the government to form a task force to put ghosts that engage in that type of assault on the registry for sexual phantasmic predators."
Well, actually, I would just like to make a note that I have joined the Me Woo movement.
We Woo?
Me Woo.
Me Woo, gotcha. Or else, Boo Me Too.
Okay, what is the woo movement? The Me Woo movement?
It's for people who've been assaulted by ghosts.
Not Me Boo. Okay.
Actually, on that note, there's that link going back to what we were talking about earlier on with Weinstein and everything else, and with ghosts as well. And with what you're saying there is people have a habit of seeing things. And this whole Me Too movement, the way it has expanded from, sort of very, very serious, real sexual assaults and things like that, and it's expanded into a realm where people are now, the same way we're talking about people looking for ghosts, there's a certain subset of people out there now who are looking to find a way that they can be in the Me Too movement. They are looking to find something, and as we said before, one, your memory's altered, and two, if you're looking for something to fit into a particular thing, if you're looking, I'm looking for a ghost, or I'm looking for that moment where, for it, chances are you can find something that fits. And I think that is a real similarity between those two things.
Absolutely. A few comments here. And then I want to go right back to what you're saying there, Greg. Overdrive says, "I opened an interdimensional gateway before, after a night of spicy Mexican food and vodka." Yep, going back to the smell thing. We're right there with you. And Chuck says, "What if you're just a magnificent aura or wizard, but you just don't realize it because it's second nature?" I have people who have put me in that classification before. And I take it for what it's worth. This is why I do have a investigation group, a supernatural paranormal investigation group, because the people that I would go with are people like me who, we'd love for this shit to be real, but we have yet to see any kind of definitive proof. At best, we have something going, well, it's pretty hard to explain either direction. There's nothing solid that I could point out and go, that. In either direction. That's the best.
And that's the thing, it's the question of not, is it paranormal, it's what is it? What is? Can you explain it? And that's where it gets interesting.
See, the supernatural, like I said, I want the supernatural to be natural. I want the paranormal to be normal. And that's when we can find it, tag it, describe it. Sure, maybe it's a broad spectrum thing, but then again, so is quantum physics. It's not something you can fit into a 3-sentence description, but you can research it, study it, cause and effect, etc. And I don't have much faith in a lot of this ever being valid or real. I'd like it to be, but I don't think it'll be. Greg disappeared. Greg, come back. Your camera went out, man.
I'm here.
Okay, there you're back. Well, you're back. You're black. In other words, there's no. There you are.
There we go. I'm back.
But okay, now what were you saying before I read comments?
If you're looking for something, whatever it is, you're more likely to find it. Yeah.
This is where perception kicks in, and let's just go with luck. If you're a pessimist and you believe you always have bad luck, then you're going to see that you hit every red light, though you actually hit 4 out of 10. If you realize that you couldn't find your favorite shirt, that was bad luck, or this or that. Whereas if you're an optimist and you're always looking for good luck and you're stuck on luck, then you realize you hit almost every light green because you hit 6 out of 10 green. You couldn't find your shirt, but such good luck you did find it. It had fallen behind the dresser or whatever. And this is where your perception alters your reality. You're able to summon the powers of darkness with your magical powers? No, but the bugs aren't biting me as bad as anyone. So, I've got that going for me. It's very handy when you're at a cookout. I'll just say that. It's, I'm also guessing they have done studies and certain people attract bugs to feed off them more, and it's something to do with their pH or natural sugar or body levels, etc. And I'm guessing I'm just low on that. Greg is coming and going again. Come back, Greg.